Hey guys, the Liberty Game Boy here, back again with another video. Today I'll be responding to Libertarianism, a Poisonous Ideology by Marshal Politics. Let's get into it.
Hello everyone, welcome to a new video on Marshal Politics. Today we'll be discussing libertarianism, which will be similar to a previous video I did about neoliberalism, except obviously in this video I'll be discussing libertarianism and how it has failed on basically every single level.
Yeah, I checked this description, and the only source he has, if you can even call it that, is his Twitter page. So, I hope you're going to be bringing well-reasoned and fully thought-out arguments for why libertarianism has failed on basically every single level, like you claim.
And how, it's such a terrible political philosophy.
So, thinking that it's wrong to hurt people is terrible, apparently.
And it is just not compatible with a functioning and prosperous world.
Well, let's think about this for a minute. Taxes would be funded voluntarily and not coercively like it currently is, and they would most likely be lower, which is a good thing, because you would have more money to spend on what you want. And the main problem with government taking these taxes is that you don't know what program these taxes will fund. Prostitution, drug possession, and other victimless crimes would not be crimes like they currently are now. Since government has done a pretty terrible job at maintaining roads, infrastructure, police, and fire protection, etc., those would most likely be privatized. Private sector companies are more efficient than government-owned companies. I could list off more, but I think I've made my point.
So I want to talk about more first about like the philosophy of libertarianism, which basically enshrines individuality and that like people should be independent or whatever, and like no one should enforce what they do, which again is ridiculous because people do very terrible things.
And what is the government made up of? People. Didn't think that argument through, did ya?
And you need someone to stop that, whether it be a large corporation oppressing its workers, or some shooter that, imagine there's like such a limited government, there's very limited police funding,
Why do you think there would be limited police funding? That wouldn't happen in a libertarian society.
and there's a shooter and he kills, I don't know, 15 people, let's say. You need someone to stop that, right?
Well, duh. There would be a private police force or maybe even a government-owned police force to stop them. Or how about this? The populace would be armed, so you'd have to be a big dumbass to try to commit a mass shooting.
I mean, again, that's kind of an extreme example, but again, libertarianism, things like this, it's just like it's not even a concern because personal liberty, blah 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 nonsense.
I mean, we care about the lives of people, so that would be a concern for us. Also, you gotta love that personal liberty, blah 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 nonsense at the end there. Like I said, you really need to research this in order to get a better understanding of it.
So basically, libertarians, in terms of social policy, of course, they support legalization of marijuana, basically every other bunch of other drugs. Um, Tolerance of abortions, since they said abortion's a decision for the individual to make or whatever. It's complete nonsense.
Well, it should be a choice for the individual. I'm not being a dick, I'm just saying if they want to have an abortion or not, it's their business. To me, it sounds like you want to force them to pick one option, even if they want to choose the other option. If having the freedom to choose something is nonsense, I don't know what that makes being forced to have one thing over the other.
Mass criminal justice reform, of course, mass immigration as well. That's a very big one. That again, that will depress workers' wages, and of course, it will undermine the stability of the country overall.
Yeah, citation needed.
I did cover immigration in a previous video. I will actually link that. I'll put a card here, so you guys can watch that. So you'll hear me discuss that issue. Um, Same-sex marriage, of course, various other things. Basically, libertarians just let the individual to do whatever they want, almost no matter what, honestly.
Not quite. We let the individual have the freedom to do what they want, as long as it doesn't infringe on the freedoms of others to do what they want.
I mean, like oppress your workers. That's like, I mean, yeah, I have this tweet on the screen right here from the Cato Institute. Why you shouldn't knock so-called sweatshops if you care about women's empowerment. So it's just so funny because it's like, oh yeah, women's empowerment. It ties in with the thing about this tweet is it combines the terrible right wing economic philosophy with left wing identity politics,
Yeah, I don't know where he pulled left-wing identity politics out of.
and it's just like it's so incomprehensible to how someone could see this and agree with it.
Don't you just love how he ignores the article?
I really hope those likes are ironic. I mean, like, uh, I saw this morning and I was like, oh my god. I've like I've seen a lot of terrible things from libertarians, but just like openly supporting child, like this is literally a picture of child labor, and I think in India or Pakistan or whatever. Um, it's just God, you literally just support child labor or something.
So he thinks that they support child labor because they put a picture of child labor under their tweet. Now, I'm not going to bash him because he doesn't know this, but the source of that image is a Change.org petition calling for the end of child labor in India's clothing industry. How did I figure this out? I found that tweet, right-clicked on the image, clicked Copy Link Address, went to Google Images, clicked on Search by Image, and pasted that link in. In a few seconds, I found the image and its source. I don't support child labor, but knowing this, I don't think the Cato Institute supports it either. Unless that was what they were trying to convey in that tweet, in which case I'd be against that.
Freedom of the individual, huh? It's unbelievable, really. Um, but again, the thing is with libertarianism, God, I keep going like, uh, I was going to get to the social.
English, my dude. If you want to sound intelligible throughout the entire video, I recommend you do what I do. I think of what I want to say and I type it up on a notepad.
Let me get back to more of the economic stuff. Um, so of course, in terms of economics, I mean, I've kind of alluded to what they support here. I mean, of course, basically no regulations.
Of course, no regulations. They suppress innovation and competition. If we had gotten rid of regulations on healthcare and medicine, then we would have had the vaccine for COVID-19 a while before we actually got it.
No taxes for anyone.
We don't want to get rid of taxes, we just want them to be voluntary. We don't want them to be forced upon us.
Which is bad if you're not even taxing the rich while they basically profit from everything else. It's just unbelievable.
What's unbelievable is how much research you put into this video and you still got some things wrong.
And again, really, really, in the end, I mentioned that I've sent tweets about this on Twitter before. That basically libertarianism, it only ensures the prosperity of corporations and you know a select group of people, people who control, all our major institutions and uh, things of wealth. It's that only benefits them. It doesn't benefit regular people.
See, this is a common argument you hear from anti-libertarians. It's like, oh, libertarianism only favors corporations and a select few individuals. It's kind of ironic because the government favors corporations and doesn't care about the poor like we do. But the other thing is that we embrace free market capitalism. We do not embrace corporatism.
Despite because if you think about it, like if you look at the surface of libertarian ideology, it looks like, oh, very populistic, I guess you could say. But it's in this sense that you're free to do whatever you want, but it's like the government isn't going to do anything for you. You're by yourself. I mean,
That's assuming you don't want to live under a government and want to be free from governmental rule. In a libertarian society, you would be free to start a government or a commune or whatever, but the only stipulation is that you can't force anyone to participate in or under said government. It's the force of the government that we libertarians are mostly against.
I mean, there's no one there. It's just completely unbelievable. Um, and with libertarianism as well, I mean, again, they're unapologetic defenders of laissez-faire capitalism,
He says that like it's a bad thing.
and somehow they act as if that like base for capitalism, it helps regular people when again we've seen so many countless times. I mean, we've seen this so much in the past year or so, from the economic lockdowns because of the coronavirus, with the dramatic increase in the profits of corporations.
Yet the government was the cause of the economic lockdowns, but of course he doesn't care to mention that.
I don't know if you guys have noticed this, but in the past year or so, I mean, like the only stores that have really been in the initial phase of the pandemic. I mean, what you had is you only had these large corporate like their stores open, like Walmart, Target, what else? Large corporation stores. People who have vast amount of power and they influence our government to basically allow them to remain open, and people are allowed to get packed in their stores, and the virus is spread among them, and it's absolutely unbelievable. And meanwhile, small businesses die. So again, the economic impacts of libertarianism, it's really devastating. It is devastating. I mean,
What part of anything you just mentioned is capitalist? Government started the lockdowns, corporations profited, and small businesses died. Sounds like corporatism to me.
we already have it hard enough. Imagine if the economic philosophy of libertarianism was really implemented nationally. I mean, like, we don't even have a. It wouldn't even be. It's not even going to be comprehensible. It's not even going to be a free market.
It wasn't a free market during the initial stages of the pandemic, therefore it won't be a free market when we implement it. Great logic.
It'd be even worse what we have now. I mean, like, corporations will just rule everything.
You know, Marshall, this may be a foreign concept to you, but capitalism and corporatism are not synonymous.
And who are they accountable to? Who are corporations accountable to? They're accountable to no one because they're unelected, because they're not elected, or they're not like. It's just so hilarious because it reminds me. I'm just thinking of the funny libertarian argument that, like, uh the corporations, they won't oppress their workers or hurt communities or whatever, because they have to be accountable to these people, or else they're going to lose business, which is, again, it's absolutely nonsense.
Yeah, that is a funny argument on account that nobody makes it. Nobody is saying that corporations won't oppress their workers or hurt communities. They are capable of doing either.
Mentioned this in a previous video. I mentioned Amazon and how, I mean, I've seen recently, like the truck drivers, they're literally pissing in water bottles and plastic water bottles, and they're literally throwing on the side of the road. I mean, like, they don't even have time to even take short breaks. They're always under constant pressure to be working constantly, of course, for the corporate profit margin. And of course, it's just like, how do you tolerate things like this? And the funniest part of libertarians is that, in terms of like the demographics of their supporters, are either very, very old or very, very young.
Yeah, I can somewhat agree with that. I just don't know why it's funny. What, do you associate with an ideology and or economic system in which the majority of its supporters are middle-aged people?
So, very young people. So I'd say more like people like 15 years old or so, 14 years old. People who don't really understand politics that well.
They may understand the libertarian philosophy, which is don't hurt others. You learned that at like, what, age 3?
Um, they basically support, the right-wing economic philosophy, and terrible economic philosophy that has allowed the middle class to basically disintegrate completely.
And when you look at the research, it's not because of capitalism that the middle class is shrinking.
And they'll always say to. I saw this funny meme, and it's like these 15-year-old conservatives telling a working mother of three to just work harder, and she'll make more money or whatever. And it's just absolutely idiotic. For old people,
I love how he doesn't even say why it's idiotic, he just moves on. But unfortunately, the more money you have, the more you have to pay in taxes.
it really just has to do, like, old people, they're very right wing on pretty much everything. Uh, especially on like economics, I'd say that's kind of universal. Even the neoliberals too, they basically support the economic status quo, essentially, and it's absolutely ridiculous. And the libertarian supporters are absolutely idiotic. I mean, if you even attempted to debate one, I mean, it's just like absolutely pointless because, again, with libertarianism, it's just like it fails on pretty much every single level imaginable.
You can say that all you want, but you've done nothing to show it.
There isn't like the only thing I can think of where libertarians are even right is with like foreign policy where they're non-interventionists. That's literally the only issue they're correct on.
Apparently you haven't done a lot of thinking, or research for that matter. I'll put some links in the description.
Um, it's just it's just absolutely abysmal. They're wrong on every single issue.
So I guess you're fine with keeping the death penalty, the state-sanctioned killing of innocent and guilty people. I guess you're fine with keeping the war on drugs, in which drug possession is a victimless crime that many people are being incarcerated for. Again, I recommend you check the links in the description I provided, especially the lp.org links.
Issue after issue. And I have some more stuff over here. You'll even have, this is an article from, I think, the Mises Institute. So the article is called "Is Price Gouging a Problem?" So essentially, it's like they try to do like this sort of, they try to like jump around, like pivot off to some like these stupid arguments. So of course, like the thing I always find so consistent, like among people who espouse right wing economic philosophy is that they always mention like, oh, you haven't read basic economics or whatever, when you really don't need to read. Like, it's not that difficult to understand. You need an economic system that benefits the middle class and the majority of the people of the country.
Yeah, and as we've shown time and time again, capitalism is the one that is most effective to do that.
Regular people, not corporations and rich individuals. Like, it's not even that hard to understand.
And what's hard for you to understand is that capitalism doesn't benefit a few individuals or corporations, it benefits everyone.
But they always are like, oh, these economic plans they're impossible to implement, blah blah blah, absolute nonsense. It's just that it's the same thing over and over and over again. And here, essentially, basically defending price gouging. I mean, like,
He says that like it's a bad thing. I'll put a link in the description to an article by Matt Zwolinski.
you can't. They basically embrace every single terrible practice of laissez-faire capitalism.
And yet you don't want to say what these terrible practices of laissez-faire capitalism are. I don't even know if you can name one. Even if you do, that doesn't prove that we should switch to an alternative economic system.
And act like, oh, this is the system for the majority that works for the majority of the people. When again, we're basically serving the markets. That's what they're doing. That's what it is. The economic system should serve the individuals who participate in it. For again, this is such a common sense argument.
If this is what you believe, then why aren't you a libertarian capitalist? We are a mixed economy, meaning that we have a mix of socialist and capitalist policies. Socialist policies have been stifling our ability to improve our economic freedom. It's a simple thing, really. The freer the market, the freer the people.
You guys have probably heard this before, but again, the economic system that we have, it should work for the people, the majority of the people, where average working class people can live a happy and prosperous life with a family, and there won't be tremendous economic problems or things that hurt the prosperity of the American family, which is the again I'd say the building block of this of the society. So again, this is just one example. I mean, they basically embrace every single terrible um, philosophy.
Our philosophy is don't hurt people. If that's terrible, I don't know what that makes violence. We advocate for peaceful coexistence in a free society.
Economic philosophy, because of course we're railing on economic issues. So here, the good thing with libertarianism is that really no one really identifies with it. This is like right here. This is the Gary Johnson's 2016 run, which I'd say, I mean, it's not really comparable since, in my opinion, this high third party vote was really only caused by how many people just hated Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton in 2016, wouldn't vote for either of them. So you had like tremendous increases in the uh, amount of votes for the Libertarian and Green parties. So in 2016, Gary Johnson got 4.4 million votes, but in 2020, last year, George Jorgensen, the massive decrease, over 50%, way over 50%. I think that's actually, yeah, that's like 3.6 million votes roughly. That's quite a lot of votes just gone. And the thing is, like, this is like for the average, I'd honestly expect them to not even get 1% of the vote. Because, like, again, libertarians, like, no one identifies with this garbage. I mean,
I do, and it doesn't matter how much you insult us, we will still advocate for your freedoms.
no one identifies with libertarianism. I mean, like, it's just such a terrible ideology.
Oh, I can't wait until you see this video, Pumpkin. I'm pretty sure you'll change your opinion real quick.
And it doesn't serve the interests of the majority of the people. It only serves to benefit corporations and special interests.
Dude, you've said that 3 times already, and I've repeated that earlier in this video.
So, I mean, I even have another article from here, also from the Mises Institute. So it says what Clarence Thomas gets wrong about big tech. So basically, Clarence Thomas basically said that big tech corporations, they should be like, their platforms should be treated as like public utilities, and subject uh to government like regulation. And it's just so terrible because of course they're opposed to this. I mean, like, Connor Summers is like, I think he's definitely like the best uh Supreme Court justice currently, definitely by far. That's not, I mean, it's not even close. Definitely very, very good Supreme Court justice. And this is another issue he was completely right on. And of course, you have this terrible libertarian uh, article basically argues against, of course, regulation of any kind, because libertarians, as you can see, that as, of course, an overreach of government power. Typical garbage arguments.
I've already mentioned earlier in this video that regulations stifle innovation and competition.
But again, what I really want to get to is with, how sincere are you, like, with enforcing what you value in a society? And I mean, if you're a libertarian, you clearly don't care about the well-being of a society, and really just think, but I want people to be free. You want big government corporation tyranny. Oh, it's so terrible. But
You know what, I'm just gonna end it here. He just keeps repeating his terrible arguments over and over again, and I've refuted them already. He's clearly shown he's done little to no research on libertarianism. I think I need to stop responding to videos that are over 20 minutes long unless someone responds to me. Anyways, if you enjoyed the video, consider liking, subscribing, and commenting. I have 2 other videos planned to respond to, so look forward to those videos in the future. Anyways, this has been the Liberty Game Boy, and I will see you in the next video. Take care.